guys! I'm so happy to be here with you this morning. It's Saturday morning, really early in the morning here in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, and I'm the first one awake. For the first time in a long time, I'm up and walking around the house by myself, drinking my coffee, and no one is bothering me, except for my cats, who are getting really numerous because I foster and I keep taking in more and more. Now that I'm working full time, I'm gonna have to cut that out a little bit for sure. I think we have 5 cats in the house now. And I'm working really hard on finding great adopters for them, but that's not always easy, especially here in Malaysia. Anyway, I'm glad to be here with you today, and I'm hoping to get 2 videos out this weekend. One of them is about Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. I know very little about Johnny Depp. I've never seen the Pirates of the Caribbean. I'm not a fan. So I just kept continually seeing videos and podcasts about them in my feed on YouTube and on Apple Podcasts, and finally I clicked on one and I went down the rabbit hole, and I have a lot to say about what's going on in the trial and how I feel really frustrated with both of these Hollywood players. But today I'm bringing you a video about some information that I gathered by chatting with someone on Reddit. Of course, I can't confirm anything about this person. I only know them through the internet, but they had been posting on Reddit about being part of the Duggars community in Arkansas. I'd watched them for a while. They offered to talk to people through email, and eventually I started chatting with them. So this Reddit user is allegedly a former IBLP member. They've left the IBLP and fundamentalism in general, but they're still part of the community. Their family is still in the community, and they hear a lot of rumors about what's going on with the Duggars. Of course, everybody has a different perspective, and you guys know that I take everything with a grain of salt. The things that I present here on my channel, I'm not saying that they're facts at all. It's just information that I'm seeing places, different rumors that I'm hearing about, and I like to incorporate them into my knowledge about the Duggars, because before Josh ever got arrested for CP, I really believed that most of the things I saw on Reddit or on web pages and in podcasts were salacious. They were untrue. People were exaggerating or even making things up. And then once Josh was arrested for CP, he went through his trial and so many things came out, like information about the Holts, Kaylee Holt having been his girlfriend when he was younger. All of that information had already been disseminated through Reddit threads and on different websites that I had been looking at. And I thought to myself, all of these things that I believed couldn't be true and it was so silly turned out to be very much reality within the Duggars world. This Reddit user says there are still people in that community who very much believe that Josh is innocent, and there are some very specific reasons why. It has to do with what happened before the car lot raid. I did a lot of research and started going down a rabbit hole, and it all made a lot of sense to me. And I think I could justify myself believing that Josh was innocent if I was in the mind space of some of these people who are close to him within the IBLP and part of his family. So here I am to present to you some of what this Reddit user had to say to me and back it up with some of the research. I wanted to let all of you know that I'm super satisfied with my new job. I'm working full-time during the week. I go to work super early and then get home early enough to be able to spend a little bit of time with my kids. It's really ideal for me right now. I enjoy finally being able to say I'm bringing a little income into the family after a couple of years now. And I just really like being around new people, having people to chat with at work throughout the day. I've just been with my kids for going on 2 years now, and for a year and a half of that, we were completely isolated due to COVID, and we were isolated in our home in Mexico. So I'm excited to be around adults for a change. To really get to spend time with my coworkers. I love going to lunch with them. It's the simple things, right? Going to lunch with real people and being able to go to the bathroom by myself while I'm at work. I really enjoy those things. Okay, some of this information is old news, but I have to start at the beginning to take you down the rabbit hole with me. This is all allegedly, and should, as always, be taken with a grain of salt. But here we go, friends. Allegedly, Jim Bob has a long history of being annoyed with Springdale politics. Jim Bob is notoriously entrenched in Christian fundamentalist conservatism, and at times he's butted heads with people in authority in Springdale. In 2015, when the city of Springdale released the reports about Josh CPing his sisters, Jim Bob told everyone the real crime was in the releasing of the 2006 police report because it was part of a juvenile record. In his interview with Megyn Kelly, Jim Bob Duggar claimed that this was not only illegal, but part of a conspiracy against him. I don't know if there was a bribe, Jim Bob said. She, meaning Police Chief Kathy O'Kelly, was getting ready to retire. And even a few weeks ago, she said, I'm getting ready to retire, and there's a few things I want to do before I retire. I think we were on the list. He added that they are talking to attorneys about the situation in this interview, and they want to be an advocate for protecting juveniles' records in the future. This information was released illegally, and I'm wondering why all of this press is not going after the system for releasing juvenile records, Jim Bob said. This is a huge story. Hopefully justice will be served. Why would the police chief want to attack Jim Bob and his family? Allegedly, the Duggars think their heads are constantly on the proverbial chopping block due to their fame and their extremely public Christian beliefs. Jim Bob also alleged that the police chief had a personal grudge, but the Washington County Sheriff's Office released statements attesting that everything they did was legal because, as they've reported, In Touch magazine made a FOIA request for Josh's records, and there wasn't anything they could do about it. It's worth pointing out that denying a FOIA request can land record keepers in hot water, so release decisions are not taken lightly. And if In Touch is correct in their reporting, the city actually informed the Duggars about the release before anything was published, a courtesy that was definitely not required by law. The In Touch reporter who broke this case, his name is Rick. I don't know how to say his last name, so I'll put it on the screen. Rick broke the story, and he sat down with the Advocate for an interview to let them know how everything was on the up and up. Turns out he's the one who broke the big John Edwards mistress story in 2007. When it came to investigating the Duggars, he said it was pretty traditional journalism. The rumors of Josh Duggar being inappropriate as a teenager were circulating for years, but no one could prove it. My bosses received a tip and then sent me and a team to Springdale, Arkansas to start digging around. One tipster led me to another and then another. I have to say it was good old-fashioned reporting on the ground and a lot of door knocking. Also a lot of legwork from our team of excellent reporters and editors. But regardless, word on the street with the Duggars and their supporters in the area is that they had a general feeling that the local government was out to get the family. And I can understand that feeling, especially before the Ashley Madison scandal broke. Because before we all realized that Josh wasn't only inappropriate as a child, but continued his deviant behavior into adulthood, I did feel bad for Josh and his sisters. After the SM scandal broke from his childhood, Josh lost his job and had to move back to the family compound in Springdale, Arkansas. I'm sure that was hard on both Josh and Anna. Of course, later we did find out more and more about Josh being a predator, and it was hard to feel badly for him any longer. Going even further down the rabbit hole, here's the thing about Police Chief Kathy O'Kelly. According to a socially conservative website, and this is something I wasn't aware of and I'm not able to confirm, Kathy O'Kelly, the police chief who released the records implicating Josh Duggar, is a lesbian. The conservative website wrote this after O'Kelly released the records. If a crazed lesbian was looking for a conservative public figure to demonize, Jim Bob would be a good one. And what better way to hurt him than to permanently destroy the reputation of his oldest son and force his daughters to relive their SM all over again in the public eye? Share this report if you think it is deplorable that Springdale Police Chief Kathy O'Kelly likely went after the Duggars maliciously because they are a conservative Christian family. Okay, so allegedly, Josh Duggar and Jim Bob were angered and they were hurt emotionally and financially by the release of these records by Kathy O'Kelly's police department. They let their anger simmer until, in 2017, Josh Duggar filed a lawsuit against the city of Springdale. Unfortunately for Josh, that lawsuit was quickly thrown out by the court, but Josh turned around and filed another amended complaint in 2018. The complaint for the lawsuit went like this. In March 2018, Duggar filed a complaint against the city and county alleging that in May 2015, both entities had received requests pursuant to Arkansas Code annotated sections, and I'll skip. It was basically a FOIA request from InTouch. Duggar specifically alleged that the FOIA request to the city was for an incident report filed by Detective Daryl Hynite of the Springdale Police Department on or before 2008, and the FOIA request to the county was for copies of files and associated documents pertaining to him and his parents. So Duggar goes on to state that employees of the Springdale Police Department, under the direction of Springdale Police Chief Kathy O'Kelly and on the legal advice of Springdale City Attorney Ernest Cate and employees of the Washington County Sheriff's Office, identified the reports responsive to the FOIA request as an offensive report of a juvenile investigation dated December 7, 2006. We read that Duggar alleged that the city had a policy prohibiting the public release of records of juvenile investigations, as evidenced by the form provided by its records division containing the highlighted statement. By law, juvenile arrest history is not available. Duggar alleges that the city failed to train its police department employees in its policy regarding the release of juvenile records, and that the county failed to train its officers and deputies in its policy reflected in state law regarding the release of those juvenile records. Duggar alleged that because the records pertained to a juvenile investigation and because Arkansas law prohibited the release of the reports, all of the names of the juveniles involved, with the exception of his, were redacted, but his parents' name, past and present addresses, and personal information about the family, including the age of all the kids, all that information was released, and it made it obvious who had participated in the crimes and exposed what was going on within the Duggar household. So obviously, Josh Duggar was not happy with this. He does not believe that his juvenile records should have been released, and he's seeking some kind of financial windfall from the lawsuit for everything that happened to him in regards to losing his job, and also whatever kind of reparations he can get for all the stress and issues that came up with his family. The legal counsel for the city of Springdale had this to say in response to the lawsuit. Last year, Josh Duggar filed a lawsuit in the United States District Court for the Western District of Arkansas, alleging a number of claims against the city of Springdale related to the release of a police report pursuant to the Arkansas Freedom of Information Act. The United States District Court dismissed Mr. Duggar's lawsuit and swiftly ruled in favor of the city of Springdale that Mr. Duggar's lawsuit had failed to state any actionable claims. And this was the lawsuit in 2007, which I told you was overturned. But as I stated before, Josh Duggar put new claims into the court and filed a second lawsuit in 2018. The city of Springdale has been informed that Mr. Duggar has now filed a new lawsuit, this time in the Washington County Circuit Court against the city of Springdale. This new lawsuit asserts claims which are similar to the claims dismissed last year by the federal court. Mr. Duggar's second lawsuit, like his first lawsuit, also fails to state any actionable claims against the city of Springdale and is wholly misguided. Once again, the city will vigorously defend itself against these claims brought for a second time by Mr. Duggar. Okay, friends, so what does this all mean? In 2018, before Josh's car lot was ever raided, Josh had a lawsuit against the city of Springdale pending in the Washington County court system. He was looking for financial return on the fact that the police department released his juvenile records and caused him so much distress. But the person I spoke to from Reddit, we'll call her Kim, identified another lawsuit which she said Josh Duggar filed against Springdale all the way back in 2007, directly after the Duggars went to the police about the SM which occurred in their home. Doing my best to search through some records online, it appears that this did truly happen, though not much has been released about it. But again, I was able to find some information about this in In Touch Weekly. In Touch Weekly reported that in 2007, when Josh Duggar was 19, he sued the Arkansas Department of Human Services to prevent them from making a finding against him, or possibly to prevent ongoing monitoring of his interactions with his sisters. I think this is an important development within the Josh Duggar story. According to this report, when local police decided that no crime had been committed within the 3-year statute of limitations in 2006, they nonetheless referred the case to Arkansas's Families in Need of Services Agency. The FNS has a different charge, not criminal culpability, but promoting the welfare of children in the state. In other words, for the Families in Need of Services Agency, the statute of limitations, which had run out in the Duggars case, wouldn't be relevant to their ability or their charge to monitor Josh Duggar, since he was still living in the Duggar home with his younger sisters. So, a bit less than a year after the anonymous tipster put in motion the chain of events that led to the actual police investigation in 2006, Josh Duggar apparently sued the state to block something the state DHS was doing. This was around the time that the family reality show was moving into production for its first season in 2008. Josh Duggar was apparently successful in this legal action. According to the report, the records of the lawsuit, as well as the documentation which the suit was over, are both sealed, so we don't have access to what happened in the lawsuit. But guys, the realities about Josh Duggar keep changing. What happened when he was a kid goes from a series of incidents that stopped when he was 15 to an affirmative effort on Duggar's part at 19 years old to block the state of Arkansas from either making findings about Duggar's behavior or acting to protect his minor sisters. So the Duggars have a history of filing lawsuits having to do with what happened with Josh all those years ago. And Kim is basically suggesting the Duggar family feels like the city of Springdale has a bone to pick with them due to all of this legal wrangling. We've heard many times over the rumor that the Duggar family believes Joe Biden's administration is to blame for the car lot raid, and that perhaps there was some conspiracy to convict him. But Kim states it's more like the Duggar family is highly aware of their negative interactions and lawsuits with the local government, and this feels so much more real to people in their community who often have basis for disliking or being very weary of local governmental boards who try to legislate their business practices and or their homeschooling beliefs. It's easy for the Duggar community to believe that the local government would want to come after a family who espouses all of these Christian beliefs so publicly. So the latest lawsuit was filed in 2018, and then Josh's car lot was raided in November of 2019. Allegedly, during and after the initial raid, the Duggars came to believe that the city of Arkansas was working with the feds in some way to target and harass Josh due to his history of lawsuits, with one pending in the court. I could totally see how this would make sense in the sheltered eyes of someone like Anna, who would probably believe in the idea of this conspiracy theory. So Kim is just bringing to light that there is an ongoing feeling in the community that the local government is set against the Duggars and out to take down their beliefs. Potentially, they work with the feds to identify Josh and pin everything on him when there were other suspects who could have been the ones who accessed CP at the car lot. Once Josh was finally convicted, the Duggar family, Anna in particular, is rumored to have clung onto this idea that so much of the evidence was either fabricated or exaggerated, and even more so, the feds in the city worked together to keep evidence about alternative suspects out of the ears of the jurors. It's important to mention that in 2020, Josh's lawsuit against Springdale, Arkansas, was overturned by the court. Wow. Okay, so many times on Reddit and on Duggar fan pages, I've heard people call Jim Bob and several of the kids super litigious. I used to think this was unfair because I thought it was very much related to Jill and Jessa's lawsuit for having their names released by Springdale. Now I realize there are so many other lawsuits filed by the Duggars and even against them. I also read that the family has ongoing resentment about a local judge siding against Josh in a property dispute, which I talked about on another video. Still, it remains clear to me that federal agents did a stellar job putting Josh and Josh alone at the car lot repeatedly when CP was accessed. But if, like Anna, you truly believe the government is literally against you and that they could and would fabricate evidence, I can see how you would be scared to trust whatever was brought up at trial. I wonder if this also feeds into Anna being afraid to leave the Duggar compound. Like, another factor keeping Anna beholden to staying with the Duggars is how scared she is of the world, even the city of Springdale, whatever exists beyond the Duggar gates. What do you guys think about all of these Duggar-related lawsuits? Were you already aware of them? Does it help you to understand why some people in the family and community might believe the government framed Josh? Thanks for checking out this information with me. Soon I'll be releasing a video about an IBLP member speaking out against the Duggars, but I'm also super excited to release a video about an absolutely crazy murder trial I've been following in South Korea. The twists and turns are like nothing I've ever seen, and I can't wait to share it with you guys and read your comments about it. I hope you take a moment to write a comment or subscribe. Now it's time to head down your own rabbit hole.